Hey there, welcome back to Ask Amy. I have a question today from Annie, and it's a little bit of a long one, but I think it's really worth reading. So I'm going to read through a lot of this, and my response will be maybe, we'll see, maybe on the short side. But her question's really helpful, and I think reading through this, you'll be able to relate to it. So she says, the topic of money is one that drives me crazy. Like food, it's something that is so in my face every single day. It's hard to take a breath around it and wait for inspiration to guide me because from the moment I open my eyes in the morning, there it is. The question about money is always in the background when I hear you on your podcast or as I'm reading your book. There is this feeling of freedom and of lightness that wants to set in, and then immediately it comes to my mind, reminding me to stop it, to get real. If I had to describe the tone of that voice, it's mean and harsh and bitter. It tells me to not be so stupid, that I have to focus on money, that the people who live and think this way have it made. They have the luxury of relaxing and feeling good and waiting for inspiration because they have disposable income. It says that, yeah, when all your money worries are taken care of, you'll have time to be happy. It says many other ugly things about me and other people I don't care to repeat here. This is incredibly painful. The conversation around money has always been there, but once I read the little book, A Big Change, it came to the forefront in a big way. There's a section of the book where you describe someone who has these types of thoughts about money. I'll never forget that when I got to that section in the book, my spirit soared momentarily and I felt freedom. And then quickly I was knocked back down into reality by my constant companion. It felt as if she took a bat and whacked me in the back of the knees. I kept telling myself that I would wait for the next enrollment period of the Little School of Big Change to ask this question, but I'm listening to today's podcast and I can't hold it in anymore. This conversation about money rules my life in a way that is unacceptable to me any longer. It feels beyond being able to let thoughts pass. It hurts. It makes me freeze in anxiety and worry, and I'm so entrenched in it that I can't get a handle on it enough to see it as just thought. It's like the water the fish is swimming in, except that I can see it, but not enough to not let it be the driving force of my life. And it's real. There are bills to be paid, daily expenses, and wishes for things to do with my daughter and dogs and life, but there's never enough. And each time I have to spend, it's agony. I go grocery shopping for essentials and beat myself up for a week over everything I had to buy. And I argue with the voice, but I have to feed my family. It's relentless and punishing, and there's a feeling of cowering in a corner when I hear this voice. How can I be with something so painful that I have to deal with in reality every day? So thank you for sending this question, Annie. I love it, and I love the detail you went into. I think it's super helpful, and that's why I wanted to read the whole question rather than just summarize it, because I know that people listening to this can relate, whether it has to do with money or not. So I know this looks to you like it's about money, and I know you know better intellectually, but it really looks to you like this is about money, and you give all the reasons and the evidence, right? Like, well, money's in your face, and money's a real thing, and you have to deal with money. And I just because I have to say it, even though it's annoying because you know it intellectually, but I just want to put it out there for you and everyone to consider that we could substitute anything into this question you asked. We could substitute anything and it would feel just as real. It could feel, maybe not to you, but to someone out there, right? It could feel just as real, just as pressing, just as, oh, easy for them. Like people talk exactly like this. We all do, about our health, about our weight, about our relationship. If my relationship was just good, everything would be different, and I have to face my relationship. It's a real thing every day. And about a billion other things, although I just mentioned the big ones, but a billion other things. And that, I really want you to kind of sit with that and see that is real. And I suspect you're doing that already, because I can hear a lot of wisdom and a lot of understanding in your question. But really kind of let that in. You're not going to see it differently, let's say. Let's take it off the table that you're going to suddenly think, oh, money's not that important, or, oh, I'm actually okay financially, or any of the thoughts your mind wants you to believe. take those off the table. Let's say you're not gonna see it that way for a while. But what you can see, what you can start to sit with is that your mind is creating this money is a thing. Every single thing you mentioned in this question is thought. Now, is there a thing called money? Of course, like yeah, there's a thing called money and we need it to some extent to survive. Absolutely. But that's not what you're talking about here. What you're talking about is this big kind of mental story around money and how it feels so real and it feels like an exception. And I just want you to see, Annie, we all have those. Maybe not quite as painful as yours in this very moment, but this is human. It's human. Our mind creates stuff. It's made of thought, and we swear to God it's not. And we stick by it and we cling on to it and we say, this is different, and all that does is kind of make it a little harder for us. So even if only in theory you can say, okay, I see that all my angst around money, yes, there's a thing called money and we need it to survive, but all of your angst around money, all of your suffering, all of your pain is coming from a mental story that your mind keeps replaying and repeating and telling you over and over again that it's real and true and different, and this is just different for you. And that applies to everyone listening, whatever you're up against. So whatever it is that has you in the most angst today, or in general, whatever it is that feels the stickiest and hardest, the same thing is true. Really try that on. Okay, yeah, there are things. Yes, maybe I'm overweight. Maybe I don't have, as much money as I want or need. Maybe my health is failing. Like, those are real physical things. But really sit with that every little bit of your suffering around that is coming from your thinking, because it can't work any other way. It just can't. So the other little thing in this, Annie, that I want to point out to you, that you kind of say over and over again that I'm seeing, is this confusion, innocent, common confusion with reality and thinking. So you say that as you got to that part of the little book, A Big Change, where you read about Jeremy, who I talked about, who had all the money worries, and then what do you say? That you soared momentarily and felt some freedom. And then I was quickly knocked back down into reality by my constant companion. It's the other way around. And I know it doesn't feel that way, because what you're used to is the constant companion of worry about money and thinking, and it's heavy and it's real and all of that's what we're used to. So that's what looks and feels like reality. It's the other way around. When things lighten up, when you feel yourself suddenly feeling free, when you're feeling hopeful, when you're all of a sudden soaring after something that you just read in the book, that's reality. Even if that's 1% of your life and this other thing is 99% of your life, doesn't matter. That was closer to reality. That was your mind being free of this constant companion, as you say. So I just really, again, I know you know that on some level. Don't just hear my words here. Don't just kind of hear that as a prescription or as anything, kind of intellectual. Really, really kind of sit with that. You say at the end, how can I be with something so painful that I have to deal with in reality every day? Again, yes, you go to the store, you buy things, your mind worries, like that. There is an actual physical reality there. But all of the meaning and emotion and angst that you're feeling around money, keep looking at how that's your mind creating that piece of it. Now, don't take it a step further to how you should think differently or how you should get out of it. That's not your job. Like that'll just engage your mind even more, and your mind can't handle that. If it could, it would have already. So all you want to see is like, oh, I have all this heaviness and all this angst around money, and it's a habitual conversation in my head. It's not reality. The reality is when you feel free of it. Flip that around. I've talked about that so many times. That was so huge for me, being told over and over again, this is your reality, these feelings, that's who you are, this is what you're up against, this is what you have to deal with. It just starts to look true. But when we flip that around and see, no, actually, the peace, the freedom, like that's reality. If we're going to call something reality, that's our default nature. That's what's there before our thinking starts up. Your thinking might start up all the time and talk a whole lot, but that doesn't, it just makes it familiar. It just makes it your, like you say, your constant companion. It doesn't make it real. It doesn't make it true. It's just what you're used to. So we really want to kind of start flipping that. And, you know, it's just a huge thing that jumped out at me as I was reading your question, Annie, that this whole money thing looks like it's reality. And I get that. Of course it does. Otherwise it wouldn't be so painful for you. But really kind of consider, oh no, reality is when I feel okay. Reality is when I'm just in the moment and I just have what I need in that moment. Not reality, thought-created reality. Worry is when I'm thinking ahead and I'm thinking backwards and saying, I can't believe I bought that at the store. And that's all more the illusion. So see if you can flip that around and get used to that. Just kind of settle into, oh, what if what looks real and like reality to me really isn't? And we always know that by our feeling. We always know anything that's heavy and limiting and hopeless, that's not reality. That's our mind going there. If it was reality, we'd feel it 24/7 that way. We'd feel it that way until the circumstance stops, and you don't. You could have the same amount of money in your bank account and your feelings go up and down. So your feelings aren't showing you anything about the reality of money, right? Your feelings are just showing you where your mind's going. So when your mind goes in the gutter and you feel horrible, well, that's just there to show you, oh, you're creating this, you're thinking this into existence and it feels really bad, but that's not the reality of things. So it's so tricky sometimes because it's the complete opposite of the way it looks. But that also means that it's really, really hopeful and it's really, really huge as you start to see more about this and see it in the other way. So I hope this is helpful, Annie. Again, just kind of ease into some of this, sit with this and consider, like, I know you know this intellectually, but really try it on. Like, what if that's right? What if money's just a thing and all of this feeling is just coming from thought that looks and feels really real, like it's coming from my money, but it isn't. And see what starts to open up for you. And I would love to have you in school in September when it opens, September 23rd. But in the meantime, send more questions like this. I love that you didn't wait for that long, you know, that you're sending them, and everyone send any questions you have. And of course, I'll answer them here every Monday. So thank you so much for sending this one, Annie. Thank you guys all for listening, and I'll see you next week.